which makes sense. Meeting into order and I see you noted the role. Yes. Item 3 is appearances, and is there anybody to appear regarding an item that is not on the agenda? Your item is on the agenda. Okay. I know you're. All right. And we don't see anybody on Zoom, so we'll close the appearance section. Item 4 is the approval of the June 15th, 2023 minutes. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
I'll second.
All right, any edits? Seeing none here. Diane, any edits?
Nope.
Awesome. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have been approved, and we go on to item 5. Gotta take off the glasses, get into that age. So item 5 is a public hearing by Christine Welly, 1018 Birchhaven Circle, and request a variance from the municipal code of ordinance section 480-24D 4A. The street yard setbacks, Monona municipal code of ordinance section 480-24D 4B. Side yard setbacks, Monona municipal code of ordinance 480-24D 4D. Shore yard setbacks for the purposes of building a new single family home on the property, and this is case number Z005-2023. So during the public hearing section, you're welcome to come up and share an overview of the project, what you're looking for. And we have in our packet, we have the information that you shared regarding your request, but it's always helpful for you to hit the highlights of what you're hoping to do, and then kind of cover the letter. You don't need to read it, but you cover the items that you laid out.
Okay.
And it might be easiest if you're up here, so
Okay.
anybody who wants to watch this in their spare time can hear it.
These are my some of my neighbors, friends who have been working on a project with me, and these are my neighbors over here.
Perfect.
They're the on the east side of the house where lot 9.
Okay, and after you kind of share an overview, they'll have an opportunity to either speak or to just register and figure that out when we get there. All right, thank you. Yep.
So I purchased this house in 2002 from the original owner who built it himself in multiple sections. And at that time I had wanted to build a new home, but for various circumstances continued to come up. 10 years ago, I again went to build a new home and wasn't able to do it. So this is my 3rd time as a charm. Special circumstances, as obviously this home was built before the zoning ordinances were in existence. The lot is not really square, although it's close, but it's extremely narrow. The new structure is primarily within the boundaries of the existing house, even though the existing house is not within the coded boundaries. If that makes sense. So the primary change to where the house is, it's actually narrower to some extent, and extends to the street a little more when we squared off the building with the garage. There was need for more space because the soil tests revealed that we should not put a basement on this property, although there's a basement there now, and several neighbors have basements. So there was need for a little more storage because there's no basement present. So this garage does go closer to the road than what did originally. However, it is in line with the other garages in the neighborhood. Those are the main things. You saw the letter, right? So you got all the other extraneous.
And so during the public hearing section, you're not going to hear a lot of questions unless it's clarifying questions for us.
Okay.
And then when we get to the consideration of action point, that's the time you're going to hear a lot of discussion, but there won't be a lot of back and forth. So it's going to feel awkward. But to just give you a fair warning, Any questions or clarifications that anybody has for the applicant?
Just a couple more things. I wanted to say that this new building will provide improved drainage. And I believe it is in accord with the spirit of the zoning. Yeah, and that's it.
And do you have any questions for the applicant during the public hearing?
Not yet, no.
Okay. And would you guys like to either just register in favor or against, or just whatever?
I just want a little clarification.
Sure.
In that, when I look at the plat survey that we're looking at right here, my only concern is that when I looked at the submitted documentation that was included in, I guess, your documentation, not this, is that she is within the 7 feet. I mean, right now, the structure is closer to 7 feet within our lot line between myself and her.
Mhm.
And I just want to make sure that the stairs that look like that were coming down would still be within that 7-foot setback, because the lots are fairly narrow between us. They're 50 feet. And that, again, I think it's going to be great. What she's talking about going toward the street. We did that when we remodeled our house. That is totally within, I think the new zoning, everything like that, that should be allowed, or everything like that. I have no problem with the actual plans itself. And she showed me something, and I get the reason we're just here, just want to make sure that we're protecting our side is really all we're doing today. Other than that, I think that what Chris is proposing is something that is well within the Birch Circle and other properties that have been allowed to build within the confinements of what she has. So I mean, I'm not here really to just to clarify is the only reason why we're here, more than anything else. Other than that, I think we're good.
Could I just get your own name and address?
Oh,
please?
I'm sorry, Steve. Last name is Depke, spelled D as in David, O-E, P as in Peter, K-E, and I am in lot 9, right next to her.
It must be
And
1016.
Yeah, 1016, correct. And we did, when we remodeled, we removed the garage to stay within the 7-foot setback too. So I mean, that's really the only, I would say, not voice, but just concern, just to make sure that that is within the 7-foot setback. Other than that, we'll leave it to your discussion.
And seeing that there's no one else here, unless you want to speak to.
No.
No. All right.
She's here for support.
Want to make sure,
Thanks,
so it's
Corey, happy
160.
to
Yeah.
Thanks, Nancy.
This is 0.6 off
Yeah.
of the setback. It's not. It's not.
Oh,
setback.
It will be within this, it'll be outside of 7, because there is room to move it
And when we
that
get,
way, so. it will
when
be-
we get to the consideration of action, my guess is someone's gonna have a clarifying question regarding that.
Yes, absolutely.
No, you're all good, you're all good. We can close the public hearing section, seeing that we don't have anybody else here to speak on, so we'll move on to item 6, which is the consideration of action, by Christine, and you already told me. It was not Wheelie, it was Wiley.
Hole in the ground.
Well.
Wiley. All right. 1018 Birch Circle, requesting a variance for Monona Minnesota Code of Ordinance Section 480, 24D 4A, the street yard setbacks, Monona Municipal Code of Ordinances. Section 480, 24D 4D, the side yard setbacks, and Monona Municipal Code of Ordinance Section 480, 24D 4D, which is the shore yard setbacks for the purpose of building a new single family home on the property. Case number Z005 2023. Doug, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I'll just run through the sort of the variances as needed as interpreted by looking at these plans. So you'll see within the notice, I did put all 3. I put the street yard, the side yard, and the shore yard. that was looking at the part of survey plot plan map that included the proposed house layout. So the street yard does encroach on the 30-foot street yard setbacks. It's right around 12 feet plus or minus there, just given the lot dimensions. The side yard to the neighbors concerned, that was posted because of those stairs there. Just with the angle of the lot, certainly at the northern end, the 7 feet is clear. As it tracks further down, the stairs from the plans appear to be 4 feet in width. And with that 10, as I read that, it was 10'6" on the plot plan dimension, so it'd be 6'6", and therefore within the 7. So if there's an opportunity to move it, that can be discussed, but as proposed, at least here, it would be 6 inches, would be within that, the setback. And so the side yard was posted for that. And then the shore yard, the back of the property closest to the water. Reason for that was the meander line was interpreted to be the line closest to the enclosed porch line. And I did have a chance to speak with the surveyor over at Berencott just to clarify that. I see there is a dimension shown there as 50 feet, which would of course be the setback from the meander line. But that is shown to the approximate OHWM, the high water mark rather than the meander line. So those 3 dimensions were the reason for that. Certainly the height, lot coverage, those elements, it complies with that. But there are those 3 elements of setback and dimensional relief that will be needed as proposed. Thanks.
Diane, so I don't forget about people on Zoom. I tend to start there. Do you have any
Okay.
questions for us?
Yeah, I do. So Doug, just to clarify, so we're 6 inches encroaching on the side yard to lot 9. We're 12 feet from the street yard and we're 12, no, wait. Yeah, and 12 feet from the shore yard, is that right?
The shore yard should be 50 feet 50 away from the meander line, and this is showing us a couple feet away from that line. So again, I did try and look at sort of adjacent plans and sort of other surveys to determine that. But in speaking with the surveyor, that line that's shown there, some 50 feet set in closest to the enclosed porch, he had listed that as and interpreted that as the meander line. So that would be a significant, that would be 48 feet or something like that required for that on the shore yard side.
Hi, can you, to the homeowner, Miss Welly, whatever, sorry.
You
It's
can
hard
call
for
me
me to
Chris.
hear. Chris? What is the current square footage of the house that you live in now?
Well, the first floor is about 1,200 square feet or maybe it's 1,000, but there's an upstairs, it's an attic, that's like a finished attic. And that's the same as the house, I mean, but it's near, it doesn't, tall people could never go up there. But it's
Okay.
counted as square footage in my taxes, so.
Okay,
And my son did live up there, he was short. And the basement is actually the same size as the house, too,
so does the basement flood currently?
it does.
Yeah.
There is a sump in there, but it's not, it's not fixed correctly, and there are 3 different levels to the basement. It was built in 3 sections and the levels changed. And it's not
Pitch to the.
pitched to the sump.
And so if looking at your plans, it looks like your square footage, and I'm not counting the non-livable area, is 2748
Yeah.
on your, okay. So you're also saying you'd lose considerable storage because you wouldn't have a basement anymore?
Right, exactly. But it also is no longer a 2-bedroom, now it's a 4-bedroom.
The new house would be a 4-bedroom,
Yes. The
And
old house
then-
was 2-bedroom.
2-bedroom, okay.
And part of that has to do with my mom living with me, that she needs a basement, she needs to live on the on the first floor, so the
Mhm.
second floor is where the other bedrooms are.
Okay. Thanks. I'm good for now.
Well, folks are here.
It looks like you had some question about when we were talking about the meander line and the ordinary high water mark.
Right, I'm just not clear where it's outside of the requirement. I don't, could you clarify that?
Yes, so the line closest to the sort of the thicker line, that dotted line that's shown closest to the enclosed porch on the plot plan
Yeah.
sheet. That and it says just to the left building line per plat. That, as I'm interpreting on this plan, is showing the meander line, and the setback from that point would be 50 feet to the north. So and I should clarify, there was another variance application on Birch Haven that came through somewhat recently. And I did pull those plans. It had two lines. It had one line tracking pretty similar to this, kind of close to the building. And then one also closer to where the high water mark was. And it listed both of them. It said meander line / building line per plat. And it also said meander line closest to the shore. So that was the reason for kind of calling the surveyor and then getting some clarification there. And so, you know, the 50-foot measurements and that dimension, surveyors will put that on, but that's not, you know, that's not sort of showing the zoning setbacks or anything. As interpreted here, it would be 50 feet north of that line.
So it would be essentially in the center of the house.
Correct.
Okay, thank you for that.
So. Given that information. If you're gonna build something on this lot that was going to conform to. The street yard and the shore yard setbacks. Like, what?
It would
Is
be,
there any buildable envelope here?
Not.
You'd have to build a matchstick house?
We kind of. Tiny house.
Just clarify. Are you're gonna be about like 4 or 5 feet closer to the street yard setback? When you build out the garage?
Yeah,
So it looks
roughly 5 or, yeah.
Like 5.5 feet. when I
Five-ish,
measured it
okay.
today.
It lines up, if you,
It's been
it
a long
lines up with the
day.
other garages across, like the current,
Sure,
the
okay.
updated garages, it lines up with those.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the mental math and it's been a long day, so. Chris, can I clarify then? So then you're not gonna be in compliance then on my side? Yeah, I thought you.
There's.
No, I am on
there's
your
room to
side.
slide- There's room to slide it over, because
So-
it's showing it offset, so.
So
it would-
the offset, so the 6 inches that he was referring
Yeah.
to, it will be,
they're gonna move it.
they're gonna move within. the-
There's ability to move it to more center on within the setback.
Okay.
There's.
And I will get that clarified. I would suggest possible condition of that word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we hear you.
Over scope.
You're interested in that part of like.
Yeah. And then
Right.
park on
Lean
the
it
other
that
side too, right? yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Lot 7, just to clarify, is a park.
Yes.
I don't know if
Yes.
it's clear on there,
Yes.
okay.
I Google mapped it.
Oh, it is. There it is, park land.
So Doug, how far into the shore yard are we now? Now that we know, 40 feet,
With,
say 40.
40.
with the interpretation, it's circa 48 and change, into the shore yard. I will say this tracks pretty well from an aerial with the adjacent neighbors in terms of the established line and. Again, similar to the other application that came through, just so that, you know, just to clarify in terms of the meander line, the established line is the applicant, as the contractor, sorry, has mentioned in terms of the front line, in terms of the street, the garage, but also on the backside, kind of from the aerial. There would still be, as proposed here, over 50 feet to the water line at least. So just to clarify that.
And then the thing labeled enclosed porch on there is more of, it's more of a deck platform with a waterproofing membrane, so it's more of a deck than as part of the house, it's not, doesn't have a roof on it essentially, it's more of a,
It has to,
it has
It's a deck, it's a
waterproofing membrane, deck with a waterproofing membrane.
And an enclosed porch does not count as square footage. It's not counted in the 27 or 20.
But it will have a walkout on top though.
Yeah, it'll be,
A deck above.
Right,
yeah,
above, right, that's what, yeah, but it's not counted as in the livable space.
Correct.
right.
From a setbacks perspective, you can.
Well, we do.
It's
It's physically attached to the structure.
Yeah.
I figured it's
Yeah, it counts for us, but
not for-
Doesn't count.
not for other things.
Yes.
Yeah.
For the appraiser, it doesn't count.
Mhm.
Why does it say building line for plot? It's
So.
confusing to me, I guess.
Yes, and in some ways it is showing kind of the inferred. Some of it would be the history of the plat and sort of how this is shown. I was digging into that all with the surveyor as well. Sometimes, and I'm not sure it's the case here, but sometimes they will just show the setbacks, you know, as they've interpreted them for ease of interpretation, but also you know, in order for the plans to be drawn up as well. So in some cases, you know, you may find that per plat, you know, in terms of those being established, but I'm not aware of a case in certainly this portion of the city where there are any sort of overlying or overlapping standards that would allow, you know, for a variance not to be requested in this instance. So, and even in this instance as well, there's a building line per plat of 30 feet up front, as shown. It appears that the 7 doesn't mention that, but established building line per plat would also suggest that's the reason why you don't see much encroaching further south towards the water. So I do believe there's at least one neighborhood in the city that does have kind of its own performance standards in terms of setbacks and things like that. But this one, certainly my interpretation is traditional single family zoning, as you know, this has been noticed for and as it's seeking the variance for.
Thank you.
Chris, could you just speak to the fact that you want this more, because you mentioned it a few times in your justification letter that you wanted to square it more. Or you
Right.
wanted, it's currently asymmetrical, and can
Right.
you just
so
talk
the-
to that a little?
Sure. So currently it has a garage that's not attached. It appears to be attached on the plan because it's built to the wall, but it's an unattached garage, so it sticks out to the side. And it actually goes out sort of further toward, toward the park. So instead of building something asymmetric on half, it's just makes more sense to make everything square in the same shape, easier to build, more aesthetically pleasing probably for the neighborhood.
And then also, could you just talk a little bit about your, trying to look and see how to pronounce it here. The pier,
Oh, the helical piers, yeah.
yes.
So it actually turns out, so the helical piers are what were recommended by the soils and engineering people, who's, went down, I don't know, 30 feet or something, and they found that the soil wouldn't be structurally sound to put a basement there. And so they had recommended helical piers, but then when we spoke to I don't know if they are engineers.
To the helical pier installer, they recommended a driven pile instead. So, we just gotta drive it. There's just, the soil layers are not compatible for
A basement.
any
For-
structure.
Any structure.
Any structure.
Not with helical piers
Right.
either, so that's why they had to go to another step. So, but essentially the other thing about that is now the groundwater will be able to soak up more water too. So I feel like it's a plus for the environment to have that. Not have a structure under there and be able to drain more groundwater into the ground.
Okay, thank you.
So to clarify, she's basically, you're tearing down, right, correct? I mean, it's absolutely tear down.
Yeah.
You're just gonna build within the existing site is what she's looking to do.
With a few modifications.
Right.
which we'll get to in a minute. Any other questions that people have?
I always make my comment that like, I mean, usually I say growing family, but in this case, like having some age in place or like a need for, you know, additional storage or a bigger garage usually isn't justification, just for like future, so that's just usually my, I like to point it out.
Housing stock wise, though, it seems like a better choice for Monona as a community to have.
That's, yeah, that's a different consideration. That
Yeah.
might be the long-term cumulative effects on the neighborhood and whether or not it's the public interest. We just have unnecessary hardship, unique physical property limitations, and no harm to the public interest are like our three factors that we have to consider, and we have to check off those boxes.
Did you need more hardship?
Hardship is usually the tough one.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, very narrowly defined.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you heard some of it already in the sense of. The shore yard of. You end up with a lot that has a unique type of, well, I suppose that. Goes to the item 2, but it also goes to item 1 of this hardship of like. Can we actually make something that's gonna work? And that whole purpose of the zoning restriction. In connection with the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Aspect, like all those factors together. I think contribute to both the hardship and the unique physical property limitations.
Are you giving us a motion?
Hopefully I'll name a few things that might get to some of these, hopefully.
Thank you.
Kind of to the point for our other person, the other people that are here listening, is the existing house right now is somewhat squared up to your property line to the east. However, it's encroaching on the 7 feet. What we have is a proposed building that helps
Square foot house.
remedy the factor of encroachment on the east side property line, especially if there's an adjustment for the 6 inches.
Right.
We eliminate the need for any variance on the property side of housing. And we maintain no issue on the park side, which, so you're kind of eliminating one variance that didn't exist but existed. I think the additional encroachment on the street side is the garage. I think this speaks to the issue of the basement issue and the loss of storage to mitigate the issue of you have a lot that has a high water table that is not easy to mitigate that piece of it. And I think that contributes to the hardship of like losing storage. Where does that go? And you can only go up so high before you need a different variance. And so this is in alignment with those other factors, I think is one consideration. As it comes to the shore yard side, you're actually encroaching slightly more than you did than what's currently there, but I think that's. By what? Well, it's roughly an additional. What?
No, like.
Well, if you don't include.
Well, yeah, from the porch it's there.
Open the enclosed porch.
The house, and then I was gonna add in a piece of the porch. Yeah.
About 14.
But it still gives an additional 50+ feet from the ordinary high water mark.
Right.
Which I know that is not the standard to go by, but it's also an important factor to take into consideration, because if we didn't, we do have a property, if you take the 156 and you take off 56 plus another 50,
Yeah.
you're down to 50, and then you take off another 30, you're down to 20.
We can build here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back it up.
Mhm.
And I know in this board in the past has also discussed the relatively arbitrariness, is that the word?
Meander.
Meander line, like it's unclear exactly how that was set, how many, years and years ago.
I think in the area, is this, the meander line encroach into their property a little bit more than some of the neighbors, especially to the west?
I mean, to
Yeah.
to take the meander line at the 55 feet back from the water's edge would be one of the deepest that I've seen. And again, from point of identification and sort of how it's shown on the survey, we have to infer that it is that line closest to the building. But as mentioned, there is over 50 feet of backyard effectively that's clear to the water. But yeah, I've seen, I think on Tony Awatha, a couple that have been a little bit greater than this, but typically it can be anywhere from a couple of feet onwards, but this is one of the bigger ones that I've seen.
So that's
Is
kind
that
of-
typical of Belle Isle? Or is that unique to Belle Isle? I mean, I know there's flooding that's happened there. Probably
think
more
that-
than other spots.
I do think that that's a part of the consideration is just kind of the flat nature of this and
Mhm.
the fact that, you can see on both documents actually prepared by Baron Cup, the approximate flood line, just as to where that is in relation to the water as well. And so you've got about 2 feet of vertical rise in that whole backyard. So it's pretty minimal with the OHWM and 845-8 through to the 847-7. So pretty typical. The meander line does track, it won't go 50 feet and then at the neighbor's property 10 feet, for example. It does sort of stay pretty consistent. But the information we have, this looks like one of the lost.
Yeah, I think to that point of a more recent one on Birch Haven that we reviewed from the park, that elevation, I mean, if you go west of the park, it steps up a couple feet just in that first property. I mean, it's already stepping up on that side, and actually to the east, I think it does the same thing fairly quick. After a couple properties, it starts stepping up.
The low point is the park.
Oh, yeah, I've walked through that. It's wet. It's wet, for sure.
You need a rain garden.
Yeah. It's one big rain garden.
Yeah.
All right, anybody willing to jump in with the proposal? It sounds like we might not need the shore yard or the side yard one.
Just one further clarification for Doug. So basically, if she wanted to rebuild, if Chris wanted to rebuild a new home, if she put it on the exact footprint that it was now, would she need a variance?
The exact footprint, no encroachment, 1 story for 1 story, that would be okay. Any expansion, any squaring off, any filling in the gaps or anything like that would be additional and would need the variance.
Okay, just putting that out there.
But if they tore it down, they'd still need that. If they tore it down, they need a variance even if they were building the exact same house, correct?
It could be rebuilt in
It could
place.
be rebuilt, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that didn't used to be so.
So you can do this same square footage? This is just me personally asking. You don't want that.
I didn't think.
I'm just clarification.
Always leave one wall up.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Right, that's what
You
I
did
did.
that because.
Yeah,
of
I
that
went
wall.
all up.
Yeah, there's a little ambiguity there in terms of between zoning and building code.
Right.
As to what would be needed, but generally, and there is language from sort of a non-conforming status as well, that if it's a safety concern or if it's deemed, that it's being done for that purpose, that it can be rebuilt with no volume encroachment, so high level vegetation footprint. So yeah, but there definitely is a discrepancy between building and zoning as well.
Now you tell them.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that would be a desirable thing for.
No.
Doug, from my earlier rambling, were you able to capture anything that hit the unnecessary hardship regarding the purpose of the restriction on the street yard, I think, is for the additional storage due to the lost storage in the basement to mitigate the floodplain level and the soils. And it's in alignment with the neighborhood kind of locations. And for the shore yard, I think it would be the additional encroachment is for the building envelope. Has a slight increase in encroachment. However, that's due to the positioning of the building in alignment with the lot that's asymmetrical to allow continuity with the neighborhood. And the additional encroachment from the enclosed porch also offsets any non-attached structure, which this yard would not allow to be in place without an additional request. And so I think that bump out kind of, you can't have anything else in the yard anyways. And so that part, I think, is trying to link that to the hardship on the shore yard. That's in addition to the building envelope, which is the slight, which I think is really when you kind of take the building and kind of bump it and don't need the side yard variance. That's where you're getting the foot and a half difference or whatever. I'm hoping that might fit all in the hardship area. And I think it captures a piece of the physical property limitation of the flat nature of the property and the adjacent property of the parkland, which results in a significant distance from the ordinary high level mark to the meander line and allows a very limited space for any building envelope to take place. And with the other piece of eliminating the basement, that I think allows that living space to be safe, which I think contributes to the long-term aspect of it. And the no harm to public interest, this is actually a unique one, and I think it's actually probably one of the bigger ones to highlight because it's next to a park. Which we can't fit all the 8,000 residents in here to talk about. And any other people that would use that, and I think the encroachment on the shore yard side. I think with this additional slight encroachment on the building envelope and the enclosed porch doesn't interfere or impact the access to the parkland and the visibility and other views and access points from the parkland or from the adjacent neighbor. That captured down all. You get the word from it.
So was that an actual motion then? Was that a
It was
motion to
rambling
approve?
one.
That was a long one.
It seemed if it captured everything Doug needed before we actually recited it as a motion. Any questions or comments, Doug, that you have for us with the rambling?
I don't think so.
Any points of clarification or caution based on some of that assessment?
Comment that I think if we could have members make that motion with the
Yeah.
second, and then
Trying
possible,
to do it in a rambling way.
and then a possible condition if seen so fit for the side yard as well.
Can we just not approve the side yard variance?
I think because it was considered, and it may have an impact on, as you slide it, the distance or the depth on some of those may change. I would suggest something along the lines of shifting the footprint west, you know, with accompanying changes to the dimensional changes or the dimension of the building not change, be shifted west to adhere to the 7 foot, or to be fully clear of that. Most specifically, the steps on the backside.
Knowing that it might change some of the other numbers.
Yes. Yeah. Ever so, I mean, marginally, but I think they would change slightly.
Do I have to repeat it? Can I just?
I was gonna say, if I have to repeat that, I'm not, we're gonna have to start over. I need a cue card.
I'll make the motion to approve based on our chair's I think accurate recitation of and summarization of discussion with the condition that the building shift, I think, is it west? Without having the dimensions change in order to eliminate the request for the side yard setback.
And then we need a second.
I'll second.
All right. Any clarifications or questions?
No,
None here. How about from the applicant? So this is basically saying. We do think there's a hardship. We think there's unique property limitations, and we think there's no harm to the public interest. And there would be a variation from the street yard. And the shore yard. But not side yard. You'd have to take the building, shift it over, make sure that you have the 7 feet on both sides. Good.
Awesome.
In other words, 3rd time's a charm.
Yeah. I'm curious, did you come here previously?
No.
Oh,
No, I didn't,
so you were looking at consideration of like, I want to build, but then you kept hitting the roadblock of like, oh, I can't really make it work.
right,
And
there
then,
was one thing after that, well, I was gonna build a straw bale house and the bank said it was not a considered
something they're
a
gonna blow
conventional.
you money on, yeah.
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 It had, but it was still 2x4, it was just the insulation, but they said no,
They don't take risks.
no. I
They like the safe bet.
guess.
Awesome.
Hopefully this is a safe one.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a motion, we have a second, and it doesn't look like there's any questions. All those in favor say aye.
I
I,
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you very much.
So much, really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
No, how did you know I had chicken?
Oh.
I went to the park. Oh. I have only one chicken now and that chicken was.
That's a whole other.
I did see Jim.
What?
I saw her
Do
chicken.
you have a question about?
No. Well, it's nice to see them every once in a while.
Yeah,
Um,
I like it.
All right, item 7.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Next
Feel
meeting.
bad when everybody leaves.
No, we're used to it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We do have at least one. The August. So regular meeting date will be August 17th. And I'll be sharing those. I'm expecting we may have at least one more. So it'll be 2.
All right. Hey, updates on
Yes, just a quick one, couple, myself and the assistant planner did with the couple members of the implementation committee from the DEIB group. And they have 3 recommendations from the original report they're currently working on, one of which being housing. And so there's a big sort of push and effort right now, kind of department-wide, I would say, for housing. And we're looking at that in multiple different ways. And so certainly through this lens in terms of a toolkit and opportunities for that, but also, you know, from affordability and there's a lot of different elements through which we're looking at that. But I just wanted to share that those discussions have begun and they will be continuing with a couple suggestions, couple of options coming through to Plan Commission for options to assist with affordability and sort of generally diversifying housing.
And any updates or discussion regarding sustainability efforts? Nothing from staff. Right, any questions from the group?
So we have an opening on the board. I see.
We do, yes. Chris Conrad has he's moved out, so had to resign, and so we have a opening listed at the moment. So if anybody knows anybody, feel free to contact.
I'll report he's still there. He hasn't moved yet.
Oh, all right. He's faking.
He's faking, he was,
moving.
yeah.
What is this license plate say?
She's great.
She's great.
She's good.
She's great.
Yeah.
Little orange Fiat. Yeah,
is it?
it's a Fiat. He's great. They were, they got the condition, they can be in the house at the end of the month. They're making a final push.
Good for them, good for them. All right, and then we need a motion for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second,
I'll second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, all right, we are adjourned.